Hello and welcome to my new video. Today's video is going to be about the recent death of Francis Frankie Dunne. Francis Frankie Dunne was from Blackrock in Cork. He was 64 years of age and he was a homeless man. And this story is ongoing. In fact, this is today's newspaper here in Ireland. This is the headline. You might be able to read that, House of Horrors. And it's all about Francis and his body being found in a derelict house. The derelict house, by the way, was a house that was owned by a previous occupant who has now gone into a nursing home. So the house was left empty. I don't think it was shared amongst the family, or maybe there was no family. We don't know the circumstances surrounding that, but the house was just left idle and nobody was using it. And there were planks of wood all kind of put across windows and stuff like that. But the person who owned it is in a nursing home. But they certainly will be horrified and shocked, like we all are today when we read our newspapers, in relation to the murder of this particular man. Now, I just want to read some of what's in the daily Irish Daily Mirror today, and some of the stuff that it says is: a homeless man was decapitated and his arms hacked off in a gruesome, bloody murder. The body of Francis Frankie Dunne, 64, was found in a derelict house in County Cork by a neighbour looking for a cat. His head and limbs were strewn around the grounds. And Gardaí, the police here in Ireland, believe the dead man from Blackrock may have been there since Christmas Day. Local Katrina Toomey said, "We knew Frankie very well and he was a gentle soul. He'd always have something to say in relation to politics or sport when you passed him by in the street." So he seemed like a decent enough man, fell on hard times. He was a keen talker to people who would pass by and throw him a few coins, like many homeless people are. It's a difficult time for them. But to end up in this type of way and to be murdered in this type of way is shocking, to say the least. I mean, the last time we saw somebody's head decapitated and limbs taken off was when we saw the Scissor Sisters over a decade ago in the north side of Dublin, carrying out their horrible deed on the Somalian man. But that was an awful story, and I didn't think we'd see something like this again, but we have seen it, and it makes no difference. I heard somebody saying, it's a homeless man, it's probably amongst the homeless community. I don't really care whether it's amongst the homeless community. I think the most important thing is that this has been carried out, and the person or persons that carried out this murder in this most graphic and disgusting way is still out on the streets. So it is obviously frightening for locals. They have this person who's carried out this crime still wandering around. Now, Gardaí and detectives down in Cork will be doing everything to check CCTV and to make sure that the person or persons who have carried out this crime will be caught as soon as possible. I mean, they'll do their best. That's all they can do. It takes time to catch these people. You have to look for evidence at the scene. One thing was that the head and the limbs were found not beside the rest of his body. They were found somewhere else in the derelict house. So it's very possible, like, the murder may not have been committed in the house. You know, it might have been committed somewhere else and the body parts were just thrown around there. But I'm sure Gardaí will be able to establish that when they do a full DNA and they do a sort of analysis of the scene in terms of forensics, and they'll be able to discover exactly what happened. But there was another interesting thing actually in the newspaper today in relation to that story, and it did say Francis was a gentle, harmless soul who didn't bother anyone. Now, forensic officers at this moment are carrying out a detailed examination of the scene, and it's just 1 kilometre southeast of Cork city centre, and combed the area for clues. So they're looking for that at the moment. Hopefully they find some clues. Maybe people will come forward with some sort of information. But there's a lot of traffic in that area where the house is. So there will be a lot of pedestrian traffic as well. And people did see homeless people hanging around outside that derelict house. That doesn't mean, of course, any homeless person is involved. They'll have to investigate further to see if it is a homeless person that's involved in it, or if it's just a general member of the public. But a lot of people in the area do walk in the city centre, and it's a derelict house. There shouldn't be any activity in and around the house. So the police are appealing for any persons who have passed on Bowrianmana Road over the last number of days going back to Christmas Day. I mean, they think it may have been Christmas Day that this murder happened. So it's very, very sad. for the remaining family members of Francis Frankie Byrne. I mean, nobody, I'm sure he never thought when he came out that this would have happened. Actually, his name is Frankie Dunne. That's what he was known as, Francis Frankie Dunne. So it's a very, very sad story overall, but it's an ongoing story, and I'm sure when we find out more information, certainly when I do, over the next 24 to 48 hours, I'll update you guys on that. But that's the latest in the man found decapitated without arms or a head at a derelict house. He was a member of the homeless community, and it was in Blackrock in County Cork here in Ireland. And that's a place I remember spending a lot of my youth, because I used to play in the Munster Table Tennis Open in the late 80s and early 90s, all through the 90s, and it was always in Blackrock. And so I would have walked around that area back in the late 80s, early 90s, so I'm kind of familiar with it, and it's a lovely area. Never seems to be many problems there. Crime seems to be low enough, but it's a shock. I mean, it would have been very sad to find his body just there in the derelict house, but the fact that his body has been desecrated is a real concern for detectives, and they need to find out who the person or the persons is involved in this and catch them as quick as they can. We'll update you on this again soon. Thank you for watching my video.